Thank you for tuning in to the Unjiggered podcast. If you enjoy listening, please consider subscribing and giving us a rating on your podcast service of choice. Also, don't forget to like and tag us on Instagram at unjiggered_media. Thank you to everybody for listening, and now on with the show. You're listening to Unjiggered, a bartender podcast where we interview highly successful bartenders about their careers, lives, and the passion of bartending. Our guest this week is Valentino Longo, the head bartender at the Four Seasons Miami and also founder of the Shoshin Art Club, an online learning platform for bartenders. So sit back and enjoy our chat with Valentino.
Hello guys, hello Michele. My name is Valentino Longo and I'm the head bartender at the Four Seasons Surfside here in Miami, Florida. And I'm also recently the founder of Shoshin Art Club.
Fantastic to have you over, Valentino. Finally, this is my first wireless overseas, full-on different continent interview, so I'm excited about that. How are you today?
I'm good, Michele. I'm good. Thank you so much. Thank you for asking.
So, fantastic. You have quite a lot to talk about. You had a quite interesting career, so I think we should just get straight to it. So, first of all, where are you from, Valentino?
I'm from Rome, Italy. Yep. I was born 30 years ago.
Oh, that's fabulous. You're joining the 30 years old club. I can see from your white beard.
Yeah.
For those who can't see, Valentino always had this beautiful black beard and now he's turning white.
Yep.
A sexy white beard. So how was your life in Rome? Did you study something that was bar related?
Of course. My sister, she's a chef, so she used to have a restaurant and the same as my grandmother. So I grew up inside the restaurant business. But there was a moment that I clicked and I wanted to open my own coffee shop and basically be able to open my coffee shop. Maybe I was supposed to learn how to make coffee before. So I started to work in this hotel called the Hotel de Russie. That was my very first experience in F&B. And slowly, I think as everyone, once you step behind the bar, it's very difficult to leave. So there's always something more to learn. So I stayed there for a couple of years before moving to UK.
Why coffee? What was it about coffee that triggered you?
Well, I don't know, the classic bar in Italy that you do breakfast, lunch, and basically aperitif as well, the all-day bar. So I thought, okay, maybe because you wake up in the morning, you need to start studying coffee, and then the next step is studying cocktail. But I got stopped in coffee somehow. I don't know why.
I know there's something about action in the coffee machine that's quite empowering, I would say. I don't know.
Absolutely.
What do you think?
Absolutely. And this is it's very mesmerizing, And in Italy, you need to know how to make cappuccino and you need to know how to make an espresso. So those are the basics. Then you need to know maybe how to make a cocktail. But coffees are step number one.
So De Rossi is a beautiful hotel. It's close to Piazza del Popolo, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken.
Correct. It's close to Piazza del Popolo. Yeah. It's an amazing, fantastic hotel, and it has this beautiful cocktail bar, which is mainly in the garden outside. So it's fantastic in the summer. It's called the the Stravinsky Bar. Sorry. And when I started, the team was absolutely, I think, the best bar team in Italy. It was Massimo D'Adezio was the leader, and he's the one that I consider still my mentor to these days.
How was your first experience behind the bar? Like, did it meet your expectations, or you had no expectations?
I was absolutely horrible. I was horrible. I was a disaster. I made so many mistakes that still today are on my book of mistakes number one. I remember I actually got fired the very first day because that's a funny story, and I had to tell you, Michele, because when you start to work as a commie, you don't do 8 hours, right? You do 9, 10, 12 hours. And my very first day, I was close to 11 hours, and I asked to go to the bathroom just to call my girlfriend. And I decided to sit down on the bar. So I actually sat down on the sofa between the guest and other people. And the manager just took my back and throw me in the office, like, you're now gonna leave this place. I'm not gonna see you anymore. Then luckily the place was very busy, so they called me a week after. But that was my number one day.
Can you imagine? You have a fresh starter. It's like, oh, gonna have a phone call, and he just sits on the floor.
Yes. That's very Valentino.
Yeah. And how long did you work there for?
I worked for 2 years. I did my natural steps from a coffee maker to obviously glass cleaner, then food runner, then barback, then commis, and then bartender. But there was basically you were doing everything. You were doing bartender, then server, then bartender, then service. Very old school.
You mentioned the fact that your first mentor was there. What is it that you took from this place that stayed with you for the rest of your career?
Definitely team building and hospitality. It was all about team building. I honestly, with you, I probably didn't know the recipes of the cocktail. There was no specs. Everyone was kind of doing the recipes in interpreting as they wanted, right? But the hospitality and the team building was the rule number one. Was the most important things, and people were coming back just for that.
So shortly after you decided to leave Rome, what was that?
I decided to leave Rome, move to London, obviously, to learn English. The plan was to be only for 6 months, which is the low season in Italy, and do the high season in London, then coming back. But I think, as a lot of people, London is kind of not letting you leave very easy. So I stayed in London for almost 3 years, three and a half.
And how did you go about moving and finding a job?
It was very challenging, of course. I was lucky enough to move with another two friends. We were working from the same place, from the same Hotel de Russie. We didn't know that we were going to London together, but we basically saw each other in London after the moving. So we took the same home. It was a little bit easier than to go actually alone. And then obviously you have the resumes, things that you need to start and send resumes and CVs around, right? That's probably the hardest part because your English is pretty bad.
And how was your English? Was it very bad when you
bad,
arrived there?
yes. Yes. Yeah. I have another funny story if you want, but
go for it, please.
All right. So obviously you start to send email with your resumes and your CVs, and you start to receiving, okay, I'll see you tomorrow, I'll see you next week. Kind regards, Mr. John Brown. And I don't know why I saw these things, but anyway, I go to the place the next day, which was in Camden Town. It was a tiki place. I was pretty happy about it. I went there like 1 hour earlier, super excited. I went to the bar and I asked the bar manager, like, "Hello, I'm Valentino. I'm an interview. I'm looking for Mr. Kind Regards." and the guy was like, "Sorry, for who?" And I even print the email because I was professional, So I print the email. He's here, Mr. Kind Regards. And the guy was like, start to laughing. Was like, yeah, they're gonna call you back tomorrow. Just wait. And they never called me, of course.
That's incredible.
Yeah, anyway, that was me basically.
There you have it. And how did that go? Like, because you landed a quite good job, haven't you? So, like,
yes, I've been always very lucky, Michele. I was lucky enough to get an interview at the Corinth Hotel, which was just open, and where Mario La Piedra was working there, and I knew Mario from Italy in terms of respect as a bartender. I didn't knew him, but I knew him as a bartender, and I was lucky enough to work in the same place where he used to work. And I stayed in the Corinth Hotel in the North Hall bar, which was basically only a gym bar. Amazing experience for me. And I start to learn, I start to go to school for English and understanding more the English clientele. And I stayed there for 1 year.
So at this stage, you have predominantly had the chance to work in hotel bars. Was it something about hotel bars that you liked, or was it just a coincidence?
I think in the beginning it was a coincidence because I was looking also for regular, street bar, and I got the job in the hotel bar. But for me, hotel bar is very fascinating. I love the hotel bar. I love the fact to put a jacket or a uniform. I love the fact that the guest can be your guest for the next 2-3 days. They can come back and they know your name, and you kind of building the relationship between you and them for the next couple of days. And also I don't know why, but I found very sexy the ability to close the room in the check in the room, or to know the name of the person straight away. I like this. It's very fascinating for me, hotel bar.
Cool. So the next job after the Corinthia is actually one of my favorite hotels. I actually had a bet when I moved to London. Like, one of the guys that I went with, me and him had a bet that I would get a job at the Savoy and he would get a job in the place where you ended up. And I eventually ended up winning that bet. But So would you like to tell me what place is that?
Yes, there was the one day I was working behind the bar at the Corinthia. These three gentlemen approached me on the bar and they started to drinking. And as a young Italian, I was very full of energy. So I was working around, cleaning the table, cleaning that, and making cocktails and serving coffees. I was doing everything. And these three guys were, I think, fascinated about my being very fast. And they told me, well, we are here shopping for bartenders. If you like to come for an interview, this is the place, come the next day. And I didn't know the place very well, so I obviously did my research and I asked my colleague, and that was the Ritz Hotel, which then I ended up working there, and probably is one of the best experiences that I had in my life.
Tell us about the Ritz, because it's a very small bar, the Rivoli bar, isn't it?
Yeah, the Ritz Bar is super small. It's only one station. You're always working alone. There is no barbex. The barbeck is like 2 floors down, and you relate with the barbeck through an elevator and a phone. And so you're alone. You're right there by yourself. And it's amazing because I think for me what was really important was obviously the high standards, the LQA standards that you need to achieve with every client. Team building, meetings every week. You had 2-3 meetings. You have different schools. You have tasting. That was for me the things that I loved the most, because I took this job, especially in London, as a school. I wanted to learn more and more and more, and the Ritz was giving to me what I was looking for somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Was it like quite strict? Because it looks like a very formal place. I know they've relaxed recently, but
yeah, in the beginning it was very straight. Yeah, well, obviously, no beer, standards, cocktail needs to taste everyone the same garnish, same way, how you put the glass toward the guest, those little details that they're extremely important when you absorb them, right? So you don't think about it.
Do you think that it gave you like more shape as a place?
Definitely. It made the bartender that I am today, for sure.
Cool. And that was a year experience for you?
Yes, 1 year experience as a bartender. And then I moved to this, my very first street bar, funny enough. I went to drink in this place a couple of months before, and I felt so much in love about the person that was behind the bar actually, and then the bar in general, because it was a Japanese-inspired cocktail bar called the Bamboo at the Red Bar. The bar manager was Ladislav Pilar at that time, and he's the king of hospitality. He's the number one. He's the person that make you feel in love about everything he does. So I joined the team with him, and I stayed over there for 1 year. We had so much fun together. We changed cocktail menu, and in that time we had the biggest selection of Japanese whiskey in Europe, I believe.
Yeah, that is a legendary whiskey selection, is it? That eventually moved places once Bamboo came to a tragic end.
Correct, yes. Then became Sexy Fish.
So Bamboo is such an iconic place for the time, considering the budget that they had. It performed extremely well, also on a global stage. What was the ethos behind it, and how did you guys go about shaping it into what it was?
Because there was a concept, there was a very strict concept, Michele. Everyone knew what was the goal, and everyone knew what they were supposed to do, right? So Japanese selection was obviously the main thing. So from there you move forward and you create a cocktail menu inspired by Japan, and then probably the technique that you're using behind the bar are inspired by Japan or by the Japanese bartenders. But what was the most important things for me was that Ladislav was able to give a special role to each of the team members. So everyone was in charge of something, and everyone was taking the pride to work in that place, right? So it was not just about making a cocktail, but it was about everything around being a bartender and being a team player. Obviously, cocktails were super delicious. I mean, when you work with Hakusho 18 as your house whiskey, how can be done wrong, right? But I think that was the main part. That was the most important things. And they make me understand much more the team building, make me understand much more the love for the technique, of course, because you are inspired by the Japanese technique. So ice and shaking and knife and garnishes and etc. etc. But that was the most important things that I took from that place.
What would you say? So there is, for those who don't know, one of the reasons why Bamboo Bar was quite popular, apart from the obviously love for Japanese whiskey, was this clandestine evenings.
Yes.
Obviously, they were industry nights. Is this a correct way of saying?
I
what
believe
they
it was
are?
one of the first very guest bartending that nowadays is extremely famous, right? They used to invite local bartenders based in London and also based in Europe to do one clandestine. So it was I believe it was an event that no one really knows about. It was just like word to word, passaparola, as we say in Italy, and it was only by invite. And you were doing this guest bartending, where the bartender was creating a special menu for the night, obviously inspired by Japan and their style, and it was a super super fun event. I think my very first day when I started, there was a clandestine from Mario La Pietra. Fun enough.
There has more word, eh?
Yes. Then people like, Stanislav Baderna, they did the guest bartending. Dead Rabbit, Jack McGarry did the guest bartending. So big, big names.
Was a great way for you to connect to the industry as well, wasn't it?
For sure, Michele. And not also that, but you were able to see a different bartender that you never saw before working behind the bar, because obviously, taking for example Jack McGarry, which that year won Bartender of the Year, and Dead Rabbit won number one 50 Best Bar, you were able to see someone that, otherwise you need to travel to New York to see him working behind the bar. And he has a very special technique working with two jiggers, having two shakers, which is something that us English bartenders, we don't really see that very often. We're not used to see that very often, shaking with two shakers or two jiggers on your hand. So for me, it was extremely important to see other people working and get inspired by them, and trying to learn as much as I can in one night. Also in cocktail wise, you were able to see different cocktails and different recipes, different ingredients.
You probably had your fair share of guest bartending shifts. I mean, the very last time we saw each other was during such event. And do you see any difference in between the guest shifts that you guys hosted back then and the guest shifts that you see now? Do you see any striking differences, or is it just a natural evolution of the concept itself?
I think it's a natural evolution of the concept. I think what's happening right now, it's a little bit more interesting in terms of guest bartending, especially because, well, now you're able really to have a bartender from the other side of the world travel to your place, right? So we're talking about maybe a Japanese bartender or Australia or from Miami, but you really be able to see much more than before. And especially if you are the master class in it, you're able to know more about the place, more about the person, more about their concept, and having this all day interaction of one-to-one with that guy, So it's like an immersive 1 day of training for you and for your bar team. That's what I'm taking from guest bartending 2 days. Obviously, also regular guests are getting more interested about it. People that are not in the bar industry, they're getting more interested to know other bartenders from around the world, so they actually start to participating in guest bartending as well. And they think that's cool. That's what our industry needs. Gets the word out and get people that maybe a couple of years ago they were focused only on chef, to get them focused also on bartending and mixologies.
Fabulous. So shortly after Bamboo Bar, did you see the closing of it?
I did
you
not.
See it getting
No.
It did close eventually, didn't it, though?
Yeah, it changed from the Bamboo, it became the House of Ho, and then after, I believe, 1 year, they decided to shut down.
So, cool. After that Bamboo Bar experience, you now find yourself in a situation where you had to go back home, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct, yes. I took the decision to go back home, to stay close with my family, and also because my current wife, girlfriend at that time, Georgia, she moved back to Rome to open a very important cocktail bar called Coso, Cocktail and Social, with Massimo D'Adezio. It's always the same circle. So I decided to move back to Rome. Obviously, it was quite difficult in the beginning because you were coming back from a big city like London, and Rome still, evolving in terms of bar industry. But I was lucky enough to work in a place where they gave me a lot of freedom, called La Moderna. which was a very interesting music, another street bar, but was a very interesting music concept, cocktail bar, and really good traditional Roman food. So I had a lot of fun by doing guest bartending, by doing music event, by doing not concert, but like live musics, and we host some cocktail competition. So I was having a lot of fun, and I started to travel more between Italy and get to know more the bar industry in Rome and in Italy in general.
So you're talking about Rome. I think in the day you didn't have a huge amount of cocktail bars like you have today in Rome.
Correct. Yes, there were very few.
So how was the scene compared when you were there to like where it is right now?
Well, I think what happened before that investors and bar owners, they didn't really understand bartenders or mixologists a lot. They didn't want to invest a lot with them. They were obviously investing more money in chefs, on kitchen equipments, or food in general. And slowly, thanks to people like Bar Giornale or Blue Blazers, they started to understand that bartender is it's important. Bartending can dive people. Bartending can bring guests on your bar, and especially if you're winning award, and they start to invest more in bartenders. So today we see bars, obviously like Drink Kong or Freni Frizioni or Baccano or Chapter or etc., that they invest a lot in bartenders, they invest a lot of money in bar management, in bar concepts, in bar program, and this is why our industry is evolving. But we are the same people as before, right? It's the same bartenders as 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. It just, I believe, investors and ownerships and management, they start to understand more the bar industry, I believe.
Puts us in a great spot, doesn't it?
Correct, yes.
Cool. The Moderna obviously was a great project, and it expanded towards the US. How was your experience into opening a place in a country where you have never been?
Definitely not easy, especially because I was coming from an English concept, then moved to an Italian concept. So I had this blend of, English bartending and Italian bartending, and coming to America, especially Miami, which is not America, it's Miami. It's a completely different world. In Miami, drinks are probably more boozy, more vodka forward. People like to have much more fun in the bar, so it's less. You want to have this still very elegant serving, but more easygoing, right? You want to have a different interaction with the guests. You're never going to say, very good evening, welcome to the bar. You're going to say, hey, what's up? What can I get you? It's a completely different state of mind, which took me a while to understand that. When we moved, I moved to Miami to open La Moderna in Miami, and then I was doing back and forward for a few months. And when I was doing back and forward, I was, evolving and changing slowly. Moderna Miami was an exciting, beautiful concept. It was my very first bar opening from scratch. So actually deciding, the bar counter, the tools and the ice machine, stuff that we like to do, and also creating a cocktail menu, bar program, and the bar team. So that was very fascinating with me. I had obviously a lot of help. Thanks to people like Rusty, came for 3 months to help for the opening, and many other guys. But then I really start to understand better Miami, and I decided to move in America. I decided to move in Miami.
How was the transition for you? Because it's quite far away from home, but I'm sure Miami holds its appeal. So how did you go about it?
It was good because obviously I moved with my wife, so it was it's always easy when you move in too. Not easy in the beginning because especially visa wise, she couldn't work and I could work only for La Moderna. So you need to understand legislations which are completely different world here in America, right? So it's all about visa, it's all about legality and etc. So it's take you a good amount of hours to understand better that. So that was probably the most challenging part. And then the second challenging part was to understand better your guest and to evolve your bartending skill to the guest right in front of you, right? For example, here, the martini used to be previously mainly shaking. right? Where in Italy and Europe we do stir, right? Also, evolving ounces to milliliters was a completely different world for me. So obviously you need to adapt. You need to be open-minded enough to be able to change your style and not be so stiff. No, I'm only using milliliters. I'm only stirring the martini. Otherwise, you're gonna fail. So you need to be open to understand the guest in front of you and adapt yourself with them. And then slowly they will change. Nowadays I'm stirring my martini, of course, but it's a long evolution. You need to first understand your guest, let them drink what they like to drink, and then you move them to what you like to make. I don't know if that makes sense, but
No, it does, it does. And have you noticed apart from the regional differences in how drinks are made and sizes, I'm assuming, have you noticed a difference in like palate as well?
yes, of course. Yeah, definitely. It's less flavor and more sweet and more booze. I think those are the key. That's why vodka is predominant. Well, but this is something. It used to be like this. I would say when I first arrived to Miami, but nowadays, talking about 4 years later, it's completely changed. Our best-selling cocktail is a Negroni. Fun enough. And so people are evolving, people are changing, the palate is changing, especially because it's much easier to travel. They travel all around the world. In cities like New York or San Francisco, Chicago, you'll find an amazing cocktails bar which they are built on low ABV, which they are built on aperitif, or like Dante, or for example, if you see Nomad, they're super interesting cocktails. So people are starting to see that much more, and they're coming back with the luggage of knowledge, asking your bar cocktails that they might have sold somewhere else. So it's evolving, it's different. But I would say 4 years ago it was definitely vodka and sweet. Yes, that was probably the traumatizing part for me.
Shaking a sweet martini, that's
Yes. Well, martini was not martini. Martini can be a passion fruit martini, or lychee, or chocolate, or anything. That's a martini.
There you have it. Cool. So you had your shock, but you opened your place. Turns out to function quite well. But then at some point, your working relationship with La Moderna came to an end.
Correct.
Why was that?
So there was I would say 1.5 years later, La Moderna in Rome was not doing so well. So they asked me to go back to Rome. And I took the decision to say no, because we were comfortable in Miami. We liked the city, we liked the country, so we decided to stay here. And obviously, that meaning that I was becoming jobless. I was saying no to the job that I was having. So means also no visa. So means that you need to challenge yourself and start from zero again. With Georgia, we didn't really know where to go. We started to look around and start to send some curriculum around, but nothing was really appearing. So we were maybe decide to come back to Italy and then move somewhere else. Anyway, I decided to take some time for myself, and I decided to go in Japan for 1 month alone. Japan was obviously the first step that I wanted to go, because I used to work in a Japanese place, because I was very fascinated. I'm still very fascinated about the country, as all the bartenders, I believe. But I was lucky enough to have the chance to go there for 1 month completely alone, and that really helped me to understand what I really like to do. That bartending for me is the most important things. In La Moderna, I used to be bar manager, so means managing different things, means managing a team, managing numbers, and this is something that I like to do. I know how to do, but it's not my number one choice. I like to be behind the bar. I like to have a relationship with the guest. I like to creating a cocktail menu. So I decided to do a step back into looking for a bartender or head bartender job. While I was in Japan, again, lucky enough, I got a call from the Four Seasons, which they were just opening. So I did an interview with them. Then as soon as I got back to Miami, I did another interview. I saw the place, which was nothing, was building. And then a couple of months later, I got the job. I got the new visa, which is extremely difficult. And then I started to work in this place, which now it's 4 years, 3 years, 3 years enough that I'm with there. I'm the head bartender, and I'm extremely happy. They give me a lot of freedom, a lot of possibilities, traveling the world with them, doing guest bartending all around. We launch 3 cocktail menus. We're doing monthly guest bartending. So I think it's important, Michele, to really understand what do you like to do, what's your what's your goal? What's your real passion? And sometimes you really need a break to understand that, because you don't see that if you are in the same work every single day, in the same place every single day. You don't really see that. You need to do a step far, to see what's your word. And that trip really helped me to understand that.
So, in a way, the fact that you find yourself in this difficult position, meaning being unemployed and in need of a visa, you think that sort of helped you shape yourself in a better
Of course,
way? Or?
yes. It does make you stronger, and it does make you, more focused on your goal and really like, how can I achieve my goal? And I think, for example, lockdown and COVID, there was exactly the same feeling. During lockdown, we were all going depression. We were all asking ourselves what I'm going to do. If I'm not going to have a job, maybe I need to find another job. Maybe I'm not going to be a bartender anymore. So, it's important to think about it and to really understand, what's my passion, what I like to do. And again, everything happened again with me in lockdown as well.
So, how did your experience in Japan go? Do you have some highlights to share with us?
Oh, definitely. I mean, everything. It's extremely difficult to highlight few points, but as soon you land in the country, you understand that they're there for you, and doesn't matter where you go, what you do. If it's a taxi driver, if it's a restaurant, if it's a bartender, or if it's a McDonald's guy, they're there for you. They wanna give you the best that they have in their hands. Doesn't matter if they're rich or they're poor, they're gonna give you always the best. And this is definitely the number one. Then obviously talking about nerd and talking about bartending, come on, it's really like there are guys working 50 or 60 years behind the bar, and maybe they're still barback because the bartender is still there making the cocktails. And so it's a completely different state of mind. Or there are bar only focus on highball, or there are bar only focus on the quality of the ice, or only on the martini. They have one focus, and this is it. That's it.
What I love about Japan is the small two-handed gestures, which they mean like you have my undivided attention for this
Correct.
short period of time or this interaction, which I find fascinating.
They're humble. I'm here. I'm very humble. I'm here for you. Tell me what you need, and I'll make it happen. This is, I think, especially from bartending point of view, right? This is Japan. And I was lucky enough to travel from north to south, and it's not just in Tokyo. If you go into Sapporo, which is the northest part, Hokkaido, it's the same. It's a different hospitality, but it all goes around the importance of who is in front of you.
That's fabulous. So talk to us about this four-season opportunity you had. What was the bar you worked in? What was the concept, and how did you guys develop it?
So the concept was called Le Sirenuse. Le Sirenuse was a boutique hotel still a boutique hotel in Amalfi Coast in Positano, and the Four Seasons basically got the concept out of Le Sirenuse, and everything that we built, from glasswares, from plates, from food, from cocktails, was South Italian inspired. So chef is Italian, is from Calabria. Me as a head bartender from Italy. So we build a concept around that. And for me, it was extremely fascinating because we decided to do a collaboration between being inspired by Italy by using maybe some local ingredients, such as tropical fruits or local honey, etc., etc. But trying to, link the place where you are, because obviously we are Le Sirenuse Miami, to Le Sirenuse in Positano. So that was the fun part for me of working around that. We create a beautiful cocktail menu called Amore Eterno, which means the eternal love, which we flew to Positano with a videographer. We choose 7 different characters, from a lemon producer, a flower producer, a pasta producer, musicians, and we create cocktails dedicated to them, dedicated to their land, and to people that they care about what they're doing, and that's why it's called Amore Eterno. Then during COVID, unfortunately, the relationship break down, and now it's not more Le Sirenuse. We are still a four-season bar, so we are working on the new concept. But I feel lucky enough because we still the same team. We still be able as a team to work on the new concept, to create new things. So with everything happening around, obviously I was very sad in the beginning because we put a lot of effort in it, but I'm also very lucky and very happy to still have a job.
So talking about the US and COVID, US is such a big country, and each state reacted differently at a different stage. How was the situation in Miami, and how did it evolve?
Yeah, Miami, I believe, was the last one to close and the first one to reopen. It was very strange, the situation here. During the lockdown, I would say everything was closed, as the rest of the world, pool and beach and parks. But was probably slightly better to pass the lockdown in Miami than in a cold city, because you're still able to get your kayak and go on the beach. But it was very hard few months. You able to stay home, which is something that as a bartender we never been to. You probably don't know where my stuff is in my house. Your luggage is always ready. But I think it was funny. I was needed to recap, and lucky, especially in Miami, we got back in our. I mean, we opened the bar and the food and beverage in the end of July, so I got back to work in the end of July, and still today we are open. So the situation obviously is very weird because the rest of the world is shutting down, and we're still here making drinks. So I don't know what's gonna happen in the future, honestly.
We don't know, and that's the whole situation, right? Which brings us back to like some of the ways that people reinvented themselves during this crisis.
Correct.
Which leads nicely to what did you reinvent yourself as during this crisis? Would you like to tell us?
Yes.
What kind of projects you come up with?
Because Valentino is always very lucky, I won a cocktail competition right before lockdown called The Most Imagined Bartending, sponsored by Bombay Sapphire, which was a national competition. And after 1 year of competing that, I won, and I was nominated the winner in Chicago. And be able to win the competition, you had a creative grant of $30,000, which you can use it for the creative project that you brought during the competition. And my creative project was to open a physical members club for the local industry, so a place where you can, like a WeWork style, where you can sit down, have a coffee, see a master class. Maybe there were some guest bartending, maybe there were classes from an honey producer, a photographer, etc., etc. But a place where basically it was sharing the knowledge from other people to the bar industry. And that was supposed to be. And then I was already looking for locations and where to open that here in Miami, and then evolved that in different cities. Obviously, lockdown came. And thanks to lockdown, I believe, thanks to COVID, we evolved the idea, Georgia and I, and we decided to do this platform in a sort of an online platform. So we were inspired by, watching live call and master classes and live classes. So we decided to do, why don't we do a sort of platform where you can watch classes from bartender that I consider mentor in myself, and to share their knowledge to the rest of the world. So this is the beginning of Shoshin Art Club, which obviously comes from a Japanese word which means beginner's mind. And I truly believe in the word beginner's mind, which is a word that I discovered during my trip in Japan, and that you really need to have a beginner's mind, Michele. You really. I don't want to sound like a yoga teacher, but it's extremely true, and I truly believe in that. If you are with the state of mind that every single day you learn something new, believe me, it's gonna open so many doors for you. Funny now, during lockdown, I learned my wife learned how to open a website, and I learned how to take videos interview. So I learned videography together with photography, which was extremely fun, but also extremely challenging, right? And then after 6 months, we opened the website 1 month ago, actually, and it's doing extremely well. I don't know if we should tell, but maybe yes, Michele, is going to be teaching a class to all of us in the platform, and thank you so much for doing that. It's an honor.
Thank you for the opportunity.
It's really the idea is really to share the knowledge that people that I've been working with or I saw in guest bartending and am fascinated by, they will share their knowledge to the rest of the world. So everyone, can see that. And everyone can be inspired by it. And everyone can really understand that the bar industry is much more than just, creating a cocktail, by its body language. It's leading a team, its concept, is, many more things.
How did you go about filming it? Because it's difficult to travel in these times, and you span across several countries.
Correct. So obviously I had a partner of mine, which is, we always going back on the circle, which is Ladislav Pilar, which used to be my bar manager at the Bamboo. And because he's a very beginner's mind guy, he also learned videography during lockdown. So we decided to collaborate in this project together. So he took care of shooting the people in UK. He went to London to shoot Agostino, Eric, Marian, then Edinburgh and Scotland. And I took care of shooting US-based bartenders like Julio Cabrera or Julio Bermejo from the Tommy's restaurant, or Kevin from PCH in San Francisco, Daniele Dalla Pola here in Miami. So I took care of Miami and he took care of UK. Then when lockdown is going to be over, we hopefully going to be able to travel together in other destinations.
It sounds exciting. I can't wait to see it.
Thank you.
So how was to launch a completely different business to what you're used to? Like, how did you go about it? Because it's very much like what your business is about, right? Being open-minded and trying something new.
Correct. It's definitely very challenging. And there are things like social media and PR. There are things that as a bartender you never touch. There is always someone taking care of social media for your bar. But I think the most challenging part was really to creating a team with their strength. We are a team of 4 people, and everyone has his own role, and everyone is in charge of something. Which is, I think, that's the most important things. So there is obviously a website developer, there is a social media, there is a number person, there is a creating guy. So everyone is taking care of their own things, which is the most important things. But it was very challenging because it's a new world and you're communicating different things through a different platform to your people, So it's evolving, it's 1 month that we launch, and every day there is some different challenges. Every day you're adding something new. Every day you have new ideas. But Shoshin, doesn't want to be only an online platform. It wants to be also a physical place. For example, next week we're gonna do a physical art show where we're showcasing photography from photographers that they're actually bartenders. So it's gonna be a physical showroom where bartenders gonna show their pictures, their photos, and powered by Shoshin and obviously Bombay Sapphire. So this is also Shoshin. It's a way to share the knowledge of the bartending around the world. It's a way to share the artist. We are artists, Michele. We have to say that. Even if you were doing knife cleaning the other day. That's an art. It's a form of art. So ice shaving, knife sharpening, team building, creating cocktails. That's a form of art. So my platform wants really to share that with everyone.
That sounds amazing. So do you think you will branch out outside bartending in your platform, or you think you stay within that ecosystem?
I think it's going to be focused on food and beverage. But obviously there are courses like honey or tea or photography that can really be, good for everyone, also for non-F&B people. The class from Derek, which is management, it's really amazing just as a leader point of view, just to watch that.
That sounds great. So what does the future hold for you now? Like, obviously the 4th season take the lion's share of your attention.
Yep.
Are you looking forward to starting to travel again?
Yes. I think my main focus is going to be directly into Shoshin and to expand the platform and hopefully to find the physical place. And then still working on the 4th season, obviously still giving my 100%. And while, we don't really have a concept, I'm going to get more focused on Shoshin and then we'll see.
Valentino, it was very, very cool to chat to you. I think it's time to ask the final question, which is, if you could choose your very last drink, what would that drink be?
I like that. I'm very fascinated how the people are answering this during your chats. I will say it's definitely a gin martini with a Gibson.
Would you shake
Gibson.
it?
I will check it, yes, and put some olive juice in it.
Very, very cool chat. Looking forward to hear more about your platform, and thank you very much for your time, Valentino.
All right, Michele, thank you so much for letting me be part of this project.
We hope you enjoyed our chat with Valentino. We are Unjiggered_media on Instagram, and you can follow our personal accounts at mmariotti89 for Michele, Alex J. Murphy for myself, and Adrian Bessa for Adrian. Thank you for listening.